Hey everybody, quick update, quick Hannibal update specifically. This is mostly geared towards Hannibal. Where are we at? Well, I got a massive chunk from Lloyd of script, which is fantastic. We are, by my calculations, about 92% complete, I would say. We are right at the home stretch. The final little hump of the script has to get completed. And then after that, I can go back to drawing. And from that point on, it will be much easier for me to project a completion date. Up until now, I haven't really been able to, simply because I don't have a finished script. That's like putting the cart before the horse. I can't project a final completion date when I am waiting on a script that I don't have. So it makes it very difficult for me to project. However, once I get the finished script, which I am very close to getting, once I get the finished script, I will be able to then update everybody, all the backers and whoever's interested. I'll be able to update you all as each stage of the art is completed. I've literally got graphics made up, like little sort of progress bar type things showing where we are, where I am towards completion, how it's unraveling and everything else. And from there, you'll be able to clearly see an end date coming, and the slow march towards that. And it'll be very satisfying. And very satisfying for me too, as well, because at that point, everything is on my head, which is fine. I don't mind everything being on my head because I trust me. I know that I'm capable of doing what I need to get done, and it'll make things a lot easier. So we are at that final stretch of getting the script complete, and then after that, it's just a matter of doing the art. Now, normally the art takes a lot longer than the script. If you think about just the act of writing, saying something, writing something down is usually pretty quick. Drawing that is a few days, So usually the art takes much longer than the script. However, in this case, I don't think that'll actually be the case. So it's not going to be this insane long wait. It will be a wait, of course, to complete the art, but you'll be able to see the progress. Each page is probably 40 hours worth of work on average. So it's a lot of work. It will take time to complete it. I have a lot of stuff laid out, so a lot of those hours have already been completed. So once the script is done, it will be off to the races, and it'll be done, and that'll be great. I'd love to say, oh, it'll be done by blank, but I'm not going to do that because that's irresponsible. We never should have projected an end date. We had to do one for the Kickstarter itself because you have to, but that was a big question mark, and I wish we never had to. It's just taking a lot longer. It's a beast. It's a really big project. You really have to dig deep, and especially seeing as how meticulous he is with everything. As you know, if you've watched any of his videos, he gets kind of like really into the weeds with stuff. And so that's what's going to happen with this script. And it actually makes my job really brutal too, because it's just like you can't just like, nothing slips by him. He's just combing over everything. God, it's a nightmare. But anyway, but it's good because in the end, it'll be a really good project. So that's the main key thing, is that it's just an incredible amount of work and an incredible amount of research. And but we're, as I said, probably over 90%, 92%. I'll say that's kind of my magic number right now. And it's going to be very nice and very satisfying to finally have a completed script. So it's a tricky thing where you're juggling a lot of things, and a project like this is a massive undertaking. And it's kind of like, for me, for instance, I can do 5 things at once. I can do 5 things. And I have figured this out over a lifetime of trial and error, trying to find the perfect balance with what you're capable of doing at any given time. And what I have found is that I can do 5 things, not 6. If a 6th is added, it's over. All 5 completely collapse. And so it's a big problem because when I was younger, I would say yes to everything because you're sort of eager and you're kind of hungry, you know, literally sometimes. And so you just say yes to everything because you don't know what's going to pay off because most things fail, most things flop. So you have to say yes to everything because one of those things is going to end up, you know, being something that launches somewhere. So the problem with that though is that you end up working on 10 things. And then what ends up happening is that they all flop. They all kind of die or something. They just they all just seem to fall apart because you're spinning too many plates. Your attention is too divided. For instance, for me right now, I've got 5 things and I can't do a sixth. If somebody comes around and says, "Hey, do you want to do this thing? It's really amazing. It's really great." I have to say no. I can't do it. If I say yes, something dies. Something will fall off that. Or I have to remove something. I can't move on to anything unless I remove something else. So for me, I've got Hannibal, and I'm doing, right now I'm making a YouTube video. So I've decided to kind of do this goofy YouTube thing. And so that's a thing. So Hannibal is one, YouTube is one. I'm doing Patronoid magazine, which is for everybody who subscribes to my Subscribestar or Patreon. I have a monthly magazine. It's like a comic anthology magazine of my work, and it's awesome. It's in the tradition of kind of a heavy metal magazine or epic magazine, something like that, and it's just a collection of my stuff. And it's big and beefy, and it's every month like clockwork. You can check it out the first of every month. I am never late. So the first of every month, Patronoid magazine comes out, and so that's a big thing that I'm doing. Most of that work is already done, but I still have to maintain it. I have to put it out, and I've got to compile everything, and it's a certain amount of work. So, In Search of Hannibal, YouTube videos, Patronoid magazine, Children of Odin is another side thing that I'm working on, and something else that I can't mention. I can't mention. It's the I got a pretty big book deal with a extremely large publisher towards the beginning of this year, and the negotiations went back and forth for quite a while because I didn't know if I wanted to do it because of Hannibal, and I am thank God I decided to do it. So because as it turned out, the script has been delayed. So thank God I got that thing to fill in that gap. So I'll talk about that later when it's going to be released. So it'll be next year sometime. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's rolling along quite well, and it's a lot of fun, and it's completely different from everything else that I'm normally doing, which is actually really, really, really nice. It's an animal story. I'll just leave it at that. It's an animal story. And that's it. That's my 5. That's my 5. If I want to take on anything else, something has got to go. And that I find is the balance to consistently putting out work and not jeopardizing quality or anything else. And YouTube shouldn't be an entire thing, but it is, because I am putting a decent amount of time into it. For instance, if you don't know if you've seen it or not, but I recently did another video with Mike Bennett, who is an amazing voice actor slash author, and he did a reading of The Raven. We also did Dagon together, which is my most popular video. It's insane. It's got over 500,000 views. You know, crushing it. So we did The Raven. And so I illustrated that, and he did a tremendously awesome, great, wonderful reading of The Raven. So, you know, that takes a bit of time. That's not, you know, I've got kind of a system for how to crank out work, but it's still, you know, it's still what I call line mileage. You know, there's still lines to be drawn, and yeah. So did The Raven, and that takes a certain amount of time. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I hope you enjoy it. I'm just sort of throwing things out there. My philosophy with YouTube is that you throw stuff out there, it'll live there, it'll sit there, and then eventually people will find it. I think that's kind of how it works. It's like with the Dagon thing. I did the Dagon video, And it was a decent amount of work as well. And it just sat there for months and months and months and months. Nothing, a couple hundred views. Nobody really watched it. I have a tiny channel. You're like, if you're watching this, I mean, I have a very small channel. So I did I did Dagon, and it sat there for months, and it didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, I noticed I never look at numbers. I hate looking at numbers. I don't care. I think it's a distraction. But I did notice that there was an uptick, and then all of a sudden, there was a huge uptick. And the next thing I knew, I was getting tons of traffic, tons of views. And then, this video that went from, 500 views or maybe 1,000 at the most, after all that time. Next thing I know, it's got, 500,000 views. Pretty crazy. So I'm hoping that happens with the Raven. I also did a video, I did the poem Trees. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but I did just a little, I don't know, like kind of playing around. I thought it was kind of a sweet little thing. So I did that, and that seems to be doing pretty good as well. So there's sort of this organic thing that's floating out there. And my philosophy is you make cool stuff, right? You just make cool stuff, you throw it out. It'll pull in the gravitation of people, hopefully, and maybe some of those people will stick around and be like, yeah, I'm going to check out this Patrionoid magazine. It sounds really rad. So there you go. That's my hope. That's my hope. And I hope you do. I'm going to leave a link below. Check out Patrionoid magazine. It's only a few bucks, and you get a lot of bang for your buck, for sure. So that's kind of my philosophy with it. And I think it's vital, because as we're moving towards sort of decentralized everything, you have to do this kind of stuff. This is super, this is weird. This is super weird for me. I don't have this personality to do this stuff. And I feel like I also have to watch myself as well. You have to be kind of careful, because speaking of personality, what if you're just horribly unlikable? You're drawing comics, you want people to read your comics, but then you have to express your personality over things like this. But what if that's not a good thing? What if that's a bad thing? Which it might be, right? Sorry for drinking. Which it might be. It might be a bad thing, especially when the world is insane, right? Some of you are probably like, where's your mask? I'm scared. Why aren't you wearing a mask? I don't know. Everyone's kind of a lunatic right now as well. So, it's a difficult time to engage certain personalities, I suppose you could say. However, it is a good time to make stuff, and you should be making stuff too. We all should be. You should be keeping busy. If you're laid off or whatever, I get it. Like, stuff sucks right now, right? Like this kind of I see. You got to be careful with the YouTube thing. What do you say? Klaus Schwab's global economic reset. I don't know. Look into that. World Economic Forum? I don't know. What's going on? I don't know. Anyway, with this whole global economic reset, controlled demolition that's taking place, or plague, whatever one you want to go with, it doesn't really matter. What movie are you watching? This is the thing. It depends what movie you're watching. Doesn't even matter. So, you got to keep yourself busy. The gym's not open. Get some push-up bars, man. Just do some push-up bars. Get some free weights. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay fit. Despite what the media might tell you, they might say that, who knows, next week they could say that exercising is actually bad for you, and everybody needs to wrap a plastic bag around their head and get a length of rope who knows at this point. So stay busy and work on stuff. Doesn't have to be a hustle. It could just be self-improvement. Read more. So yeah, read some Livy, History of Rome. Speaking of Hannibal, go to the source. Fantastic stuff. Or Adrian Goldsworthy, The Punic Wars. This is some of my own reading. Before I contacted Lloyd about doing Hannibal, I was deep into this. I'm glad I didn't do it before. I'm glad I waited for Lloyd. It was well worth it. But I was sitting on this idea of doing Hannibal as a comic for probably 15 years, like a really long time. I used to work in a bookshop, and I just stumbled upon this, Punic Wars by Nigel Bagnall. Just stumbled upon it. I thought, this is some fascinating stuff that I didn't really know much about. And I was intrigued. And the more I read about Hannibal, the more I realized that this is some of the most epic, amazing stuff on earth, and this has to get made into a comic. I got to draw this one day, and here we are. So, yeah, I would recommend the Punic Wars by Adrian Goldsworthy if you want a really fun, it's not fictionalized. It's just a really engaging, dramatic read of events. Or if you don't want to read, if you don't want to, even just saying that, I feel like I need to throw up a little bit. But if you're one of the listening sorts, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, he has a really good series on the Punic Wars. God, it's amazing. If you've got a long drive ahead of you, throw that on. It is fantastic. I highly recommend it. He is so good. He is so good. And his one on Hannibal or the Punic Wars is exceptional. He mostly focuses on, obviously, the Second Punic War, which is, Hannibal's. But he gives a really, like all of his stuff, he gives a really good background on the events so that you have the context for the story. It's fantastic. This one here, Hannibal, Enemy of Rome, Leonard Cottrell. This one inspired me to do a mega epic road trip and retrace Hannibal's journey, which I did. And it was well worth it. And I did it because of this book. That's what he did. He retraced Hannibal's journey. And so I did what he did. Although I added a few places because I'm not sure if certain things are where they say they are. But yeah, I did do it. I went all through Spain and France and Italy, and I went to all the battle sites in all these places where these things took place. I snapped thousands of photos so that when I am drawing this, I have actual sources because I was actually there. I've been to Kenai. I've been to these places. I've been to Lake Trasimene. I've been to all these places. I physically have seen it, and I've walked the ground, and that way, when it's in the book, it's I was there, and you can hopefully kind of feel that a little bit. You're not making stuff up, I guess you could say. Ghosts of Kenai, not bad. A lot of good nuggets, a lot of really interesting nuggets. The Flamingo Squad came from here, which you'll see in the book. That sounds ridiculous. I know, the Flamingo Squad. You're like, what is this? Oh my God, this is so exciting. Is there a group of like drag Roman soldiers? No, but we do have a squad that we cheekily call the Flamingo Squad. Anyway, and Carthage Must Be Destroyed by Richard Miles. Not bad. My top picks, though, if you're going to do some Hannibal reading, is obviously the Adrian Goldsworthy book, and you go old school and you just read actual Livy. So, there you go. 5 things. Don't do any more than 5 things. I know that it's tough if you're a creative person, whatever that means, to say no to things, but you should. You should focus on stuff. Focus on 5 things and no more. Don't add anything else. If you have a cool idea, I never should have drank that Coke. I've got the burpees. If you've got a cool idea that pops into your head, do you already have 5 things going on? If so, you shelve it. You put it in a folder and you ignore it until one of these things is removed. Otherwise, they all collapse. So that's my tip for anybody doing creative type stuff. If this doesn't include going to the gym, this doesn't include learning some piano, but even then too, you should limit that stuff. Limit it. You only have a certain amount of time. There's a lot of hobbies that I really, really, really want to get into. I have been dying, this sounds maybe a little silly, but I have been dying to build model airplanes. I really want to build model airplanes. I want to, like, specifically, like say old World War II stuff, like P-47s, P-51 Mustangs, this kind of stuff. Uh, BF 109. These really cool old planes. I really want to build uh, airplane models, get an airbrush and all this kind of stuff, and just it seems like a really fun thing to do. I used to do it when I was a kid, and there's some really great models out there. I've gone to some model shops, and I just walk around and I kind of just drool over the idea of one day being able to do this. But the thing is that I can't. I can't. It's just, I have too many things on the go right now, and you only have so much time to do everything. So you kind of have to pick and choose. Otherwise, you just, if you play video games, that's going to eat up one or two of your slots for hobbies. It's a massive time sink. I get it. Crusader Kings 3 came out. I'm constructing the most amazing inbred master race, lisps and hunchbacks. They're hilarious, and I get the fun of video games, but it is a massive time sink. So it's something to consider with hobbies and with work and with everything. But you still have to keep yourself busy. You can't be a lump staring at the TV. And I know that right now it's maybe kind of a weird time, a depressing time, an odd time, but you have to keep yourself busy. You got to keep yourself occupied and stay creative. Keep your mind engaged. Read more. Read more. Quantify your time and see what you've got time for. See what you've got room for. Because people who say they don't have time to read, that's an excuse. It's like saying you don't have time to exercise. Of course you do. Of course you do. You simply don't want to. You don't want to take the time to do that. So next YouTube videos, what am I going to do? I think I might actually put some Age of Iker stuff together and make sort of a motion comic type thing out of it. It's a little bit weird for YouTube, but I don't know, I kind of want to do it. A part of it is an excuse to use some of the music that I've got by Castle If, which is amazing. And it's more just an excuse to use some of that really, really great music and put it to imagery. I know it's kind of a weird thing for YouTube, or it's a weird sort of video art project kind of thing. But I know that out there's people that might kind of appreciate it and kind of dig it. So there you go. Something for everybody is for nobody, right? Let's think about that. Something for everybody, it's for nobody. So it's okay to be a bit nichey. If you haven't seen my Raven video, go check it out. Also, I want this channel to be a bit more about inspiration. I think that a lot of the stuff that I find that I want to talk about, it's not always comic stuff or this kind of thing, but it really is I want to talk about things that I find interesting, that I find inspiring. And this could be like architecture type stuff. I see architecture and my brain just lights up, and that's just me. So, but it might be you too. So I did a video recently on Germany in around the 1900s, and it's just a slideshow of imagery and colorized photographs of Germany around 1900, and it's insane to me. And when I see that, my brain lights up and I get inspired. So part of this channel is me wanting to do that for you as well. I want you to hopefully get inspired to do stuff. So I'm going to keep doing stuff like that, even though it might not be a hit or whatever. But I think it's important. So I want people to get something out of this channel for themselves. And I think that that's kind of an important thing to do. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. And yeah, let me know. What are you guys doing to keep yourself busy? I'm thinking of going through, speaking of inspiration, D&D, Art and Arcana. Oh my God. Thinking of doing that. I just going through it, talking about it, sharing it. It's fantastic. So, all right. Till next time.